Hey Jake, saw your video and saw you're having some problems, so I thought I'd try and help you out a little bit. So the first thing we'll look at is the creation. So if you go to the create menu, I'm going to just rip this off so we can see it. You'll notice when you create any object, by default, they're going to be making it at 0. That's how Maya works by default. That's the exact same menu if I hold shift right click. These guys are all going to be created, oops, unless I open the app at 000. That's just how it works by default. But if you look at that menu again, at the bottom, there's a thing here that says interactive creation. And I never use this. I'm not a big fan of it, but I'll show you how it works. So if I select the interactive creation, I can then say select my cylinder, and it'll say drag the base and then pull up for height. So you can do that, right? And that's probably what you're seeing in that video, is that's how they're creating their objects. I think it came over from 3D Studio Max. I'm not a giant fan of it. I find it a little bit it's not very exacting, so if you're trying to get things exactly where you want them, it's kind of fun because it's loose, but I don't like it personally. But anyway, I'll use it for this, and that's the same thing. Once I turn that on there, you can also turn it on the bottom of your shift menu down here, right? So let's create a cylinder, all right? And you have to be very careful to make sure it's at 000. Otherwise, it's not at 000. All right, cool. And then I'm going to create the cube. Let's see here. Doop. Yeah, so I actually recommend not using this, but whatever, it's fine. And what you'll notice when you create these things, you have an inputs in your channel box, and that's going to be all the inputs that went in to create this cube. So if I click on that cube, I now have my values here. You probably already know this, but I'm not sure. And I'm going to give it some values so it can be bent. Get rid of the bendy, and one in the middle looks good. Cool. And then what I want to do is get rid of that history before I do anything with deformers after that. So I'm going to select both these objects, go to modify, and first I'm going to freeze them, and then I'm going to go edit, delete by type, history. All right, so now I have no history left on those objects, right? Okay, so the second thing he does is add deformer to it for curve deformer. So it's in the deform menu, and go to nonlinear bend. And if you have shading on, you don't actually see what it did, which I think is maybe why you're getting a little confused. But if you hit 4, you'll be able to see it creates a little handle there for you, right? And this is just another 3D object that you can move around in space, and that's what he's doing to get the curvature to work right. So I go over here and use curvature, and you're right. If I slide in the field slider, it only goes -2 to 3, which is super weird. I don't know why that is. I never use that, but if you click on it and go to the void space of your menu, you can go -80, 180 to 80. This is called a virtual slider. You can also hit T and you'll get this little manipulator. A lot of things have manipulators. Create sphere has creation objects have manipulators, lights have manipulators. All the deformers have manipulators, or almost all of them. And if I pull the center out, that's the deform there too. Along with that, it also has a LowBound and HighBound. So what I'm going to do is first I'm going to angle this to the correct way. So let's get it turned. And when you angle it, you're actually changing the position of the bend handle, not the geometry. So if I grab this and I know I want to go this way, so I'm going to go 90 degrees that way. And I don't care that it bent backwards. If I put in -90, it may have done what I wanted to. And then I'm going to turn it this way because I want to get it to cup around that cylinder. At least I think that's what you want to do. Cool. And now if I just go to that bend and give this a -45 rather than +45, and again, it doesn't matter. It all depends on which way you bent that handle. And incidentally, just so you know, if you have, and see, I'll turn the envelope off. The envelope is just how much it affects it. And I'm going to put this guy out in space. When I create that deformer, it's going to try and match to where it thinks it should be, right? That may not be what you want, but it's going to try and fit the bounding box, and it's going to try and angle it to match the object. So let's go back to our original here. And I'll turn bend back on the envelope. Cool. So let's look at LowBound and HighBound. So what LowBound and HighBound do is, again, I'm going to hit 4 so we can actually see this and select the bend handle itself because it's easier that way. I'll put this back to -1. You can see that that's how much it's affecting. It's basically like a drop off, right? So if I put this to 0, it's not going to affect any of this side, but as I draw it out, it's going to do actually a full 360 over the surface. So if I had a really long object, or if I scale this out, it's going to start going around that sphere, that bend handle all the way, right? Which is pretty cool. But not in this case, not what you want. But I think maybe why you're getting a little bit confused there. And then again, if I move this, it changed the relationship between the bend handle and the cube. So if they're aligned, you could get something like this. If they're not aligned, you're gonna get, something like that. So but just pretend that this curve here, this control here, is just going shooting up in space, down and bottom, and anywhere it angles, it's like curving it along that axis, right? Okay, so I hope that works, and good luck.